call
to the
the
House.
member for Mildura.
Thank you, Acting Speaker, and I am more than happy to rise to give a practical, pragmatic, real-world point of view on the Drugs, Poisons and Controlled Substances Amendment Bill, the Pill Testing Bill 2024. You'll know by now, Acting Speaker, as anyone that does know me, that I am a very practical and pragmatic person, which is probably why I'm a national. But we have had many, many questions around this bill and the implications. And as the member for Narrabeen pointed out several times during his contribution, there's simply not enough information and evidence to support this. There's just not. And as the member for Lowan, who has a career before politics in healthcare and in science, that's someone that I'm going to take a lot of direction for. The member for South West Coast, again, having worked in healthcare, these are some of, and I've never worked in healthcare, so of course you look to your mentors, like the member for Lowan, for those sorts of opinions. And I'll get to those a little bit later on. But as far as I'm concerned, as a mother and a stepmother, there is simply not enough information in this bill for me to be comfortable with it. However, it has allowed for some conversations that may have otherwise been very, very difficult or perhaps not have ever happened at all. So for that, I'm grateful. However, there's the how, the where, the what. What exactly is being tested? If it's not picking up nitazines, what is it testing for? The how reliable is it? How is the information shared? Is it going to be shared? As far as the legislation goes now, no, it's not. What is in the pill that you're testing, that information of what it's composed of doesn't have to be shared. So then what's the point? And where will it be available? Now, we are all for harm reduction, of course, regarding drugs and alcohol in particular, and obviously we are all about practical ways to go about harm reduction. And the residential rehab facility that the member for Lowan referenced during her contribution, obviously, and the 5,000 people that are on the waiting list for residential rehab in Victoria for alcohol and other drugs is alarming. We are still waiting. After my predecessor, Peter Crisp, and member for Lowan, worked tirelessly on a policy in 2018 and obviously previous to that, 2014 as well, for years and years to help facilitate. There are no residential beds in my part of the world, and yet when you have a look at the statistics, they are alarming. This affects so many families. So many families. And yes, we are on the way. There are steps in the right direction. Recently, we had the location announced for our alcohol and other drugs residential rehab facility announced. But in true style of the government, there was very little, if any, consultation with the surrounding community, the neighbours. When the announcement was made via press release and printed by the local press, the community was befuddled as to exactly what the facility did, how it looked, what solutions were going to be around the infrastructure, the transport infrastructure in particular, given that the site that's been chosen, and the former Minister for Mental Health was very, very helpful in helping me get some local elders on that location selection committee. She was very, very helpful, the member for Dandenong, in getting local elders on that selection committee, because there was a great amount of alarm when things were starting to move forward and there were no local elders, because the Aboriginal community in the northwest of this state, the largest in this state, obviously need to be consulted. These are the people that we are desperate, to provide these facilities for, because if they have to leave country, they're not going to get treatment. They're just not. So the location was vitally important. So I do thank the former Minister for Mental Health with her assistance in that. and the location has been announced, but still there's 5,000 people on the waiting list. That's not harm reduction. But I did say earlier that I was going to give a pragmatic, real-world account of this pill testing bill, and as someone who, and I'm still a festival head, you know, I've got good things festivals coming up even in my mid-40s. I know that's kind of pathetic, but whatever, it's our thing. The ones in the middle of the bush doof, as they're affectionately known, they were never my scene. But we had, when I was a young person, we had Big Day Out, we had Groove in the Moo in the regions, which was amazing. We had Triple J's One Night Stand. We had great rock festivals. But acting speaker, in my day, and I may have been very, very naive, I was so scared because of my parents, in particular my Italian father, that if I was to touch anything illicit and anything that happened to me, I would not be standing here today. I was so scared of him. And my mother was probably worse, to be honest. But in my day, I wasn't aware, and like I said, I could have been naive, but I wasn't aware of any sort of chemical or synthetic drugs going around in the 90s. We knew that people would go there and we could smell, you know, things being smoked or whatever, but synthetic drugs were just not even on mine and my friends' radars until Splendour in the Grass and little bit later on, and there were sniffer dogs at the gates of these festivals. However, I also mentioned earlier that this bill has led to some conversations with my teenagers. In particular, my 17-year-old teenage stepson, who has the most magnificent mane of long curly hair and looks like he could be a rock star. But it did allow for some conversations that otherwise we may not have had. So when I asked him about this pill testing bill, and he is a very, very smart, in fact, sometimes smart to a fault where his common sense maybe lacks a little. But he's also very, very sensible. He's type 1 diabetic. You know, his health is at the forefront of his mind all the time. When I asked him how he felt about going to festivals in the coming years and whether pill testing, I did say, this is obviously completely hypothetical because you would never do anything like this, would you, darling? The response I got was actually concerning, that he knew, he's obviously very versed in this and it's something that he and his friends have spoken about. And he did say that that he has seen so much about fentanyl that it scares the pants off him, and he has no interest in going anywhere near that. And he's not a festival head. Let me say that he doesn't go to concerts. His 15-year-old sister loves a Taylor Swift concert. She's just been at Olivia Rodriguez, but that's a whole other kettle of fish. He's not. But he did say he does not want to experience anything close to that. However, if he knew where the pills or the drugs were coming from, he probably wouldn't get them tested. That to me is really alarming. You might know where you have got them from, whether it's another friend or whatever, but this is a whole chain of events that take place before them. He did say, but if I didn't know where it came from, he probably would. And he would take whatever the test said as the truth. Now, given that the member for Lowan, lots of members in this place on this side of the House have pointed out the lack of information contained in this bill on the how, the what, we know that nitazenes are not being tested for. That's really concerning from a mum and a stepmother's point of view, particularly of young people with festival season coming up, that they will rely and put their faith in the fact that they could have a pill tested, and what comes back, even though we know the person testing that bill cannot share the information gathered, they don't have to share what's in it, if they can even tell, because we know it's not, nitazenes are not being shared, are not being tested for. So the limitations around this testing just create so many areas of concern, not just for me, but obviously other members on this side of the House and other parents. I mean, how can it not? You know, like I said, when I was going to festivals in my 20s and early 30s, I was just too scared. I'm still scared of my parents, let's be honest. But I was just too scared to do anything. And now with all of these synthetics and the things we see in the news, we should be scared and we shouldn't be relying on an unreliable piece of legislation